Brandy. I'm going to talk to you about the teaching of technology in ADHD.
And I'm Chrysalyn, and I'll be doing the introduction to technology in ADHD. So ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. It affects millions of children. This is a chronic condition. Therefore, there is no cure, but medical researchers are looking to work with children to help subdue their symptoms. And with some children, their symptoms decrease with age, but others will suffer from it their entire lives. So children or adults with ADHD, they have difficulty with activities that include paying attention, following instructions, listening, or finishing tasks. And they can frequently daydream, interrupt conversation, lose important items, or fidget throughout class. When a child goes in to get diagnosed with ADHD, they'll first go through a medical exam, therefore they can rule out any other factors that may be causing their symptoms. The doctor is going to want to gather information, and this can be personal medical history, family medical history, and school records. From there, they can go to do interviews with coaches, teachers, family members, to try and get more information on the child. Then they'll go to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, and the child has to score at least 6 items in 2 different categories in order for them to be diagnosed with ADHD. And we have some audio for Jamie's part.
There are some common causes surrounding ADHD. Of these common causes, there's hereditary, exposure to toxic substances, brain trauma, food additives, bad parenting, and technology. Of all of these, only 3 have been scientifically proven as a cause, and that is hereditary, brain trauma, and exposure to toxic substances. 8 years ago, the first iPhone was released. Over the last 8 years, ADHD has seen an increase in diagnosis of 42%. If this is a cause or effect, I'm not sure, but it is alarmingly interesting. Technology has been proven to increase dopamine levels or releases in our brain. When we're not using that technology, our dopamine levels drop, which causes boredom in a large percentage of people. According to Wikipedia, boredom is an emotional state experienced when an individual is left without anything in particular to do and not interested in their surroundings. Medicine to treat ADHD and technology both increase dopamine levels in the brain. So how could technology be the cause if it has been proven to do the same thing as the treatment? In my opinion, ADHD is just misunderstood. Technology only serves as a distraction, not a cause. And technology is a common resource that can be used in determining diagnosis for ADHD. Who said I was easily distracted? Squirrel!
Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about teaching how to teach a student that has ADHD, and this is actually very close to my heart because my stepson does have ADHD, so I work with him a lot on this. My slides are full of a lot of information, but I'm actually going to just talk to you about them because, if any of you need to know more about it. Direct instruction, students who have ADHD, they really need for people to be clear and concise and tell instructions frequently. You can't just sit there and, tell them like we would here in class. They have to hear it several times for them to understand because their ability to pay attention is so minimal sometimes that they don't even hear what you're saying. Auditory cues and visual cues are good things to have. So for instance, for my son, we have a timer that goes off every 30 minutes or so, and it reminds him that he needs to do something else. That's all it is a reminder. Peer tutoring, it is good for when they're in the classroom environment, is to have the other kids understand what's happening so that they can help encourage the student to stay on track. And it's really, I found with my son that it was more, it was not helpful for him to be sitting by somebody else who was having a hard time paying attention in class. And some of those kids that are more the bad kids, not the kids that have ADHD, tended to push him towards a bad area. So after talking to the teacher, we learned that if we set him with somebody who likes to study, he's going to pay attention to what that kid's doing. So that helped with us a lot. Instructions, multi-step instructions are very difficult for kids who have ADHD. My son, we have a specific way we learn our spelling words. We start with, we put him in a quieter area, like at the kitchen table, and he writes down the words 5 times a piece. Once he writes down the words 5 times a piece, then he recites them to me and tells me what the words are. And then we go to the next step, which is, I ask him the word, and he tells me how to spell it. And then we go to the third step, which is where I spell the word, and he tells me what the word is. We have been doing this way this whole entire year. He got held back in kindergarten because he was having such a hard time with spelling that they thought he was going to be in the special ed class.
How old?
He is, right now he's 8. Scheduling, I have found that if you keep the kids on the schedule, it really helps to keep them on track. And with us, we have him every other day, and then we have him every other weekend. So when we try not to deviate from that, because it's a set schedule at his mom's house and a set schedule at our house for this reason. This is him when he was 7. It's a good idea to keep them active. If you are sitting there and he's just like messing around constantly, it's good to get him up and do something. I found that spending too much time on his iPad or playing video games, it really isn't that it's bad for him. It's just that he's sitting idle for so long, and then as soon as he's done, he's like, oh my gosh, I'm hyper and I need more help. So we have a certain amount of time that he's allowed to do technology. TV, that includes TV, video games, everything. He gets about 45 minutes at night. Then afterwards, we have to have him sit down and read a book. This helps calm him down and bring his levels down. And we go to bed at 8 o'clock specifically so that he cannot, because he'll go to bed at 8 o'clock but won't fall asleep till 8:30 or 8:45 because his brain just keeps going. Being able to reward him. What we have started this year is great because we have, once he had a month of 100% on his spelling test, we had a cake and a party. And then we did a 3-month of 100% on the pre-test to where he doesn't have to take it on Friday. We went to go skating. And now we're waiting for the 6-month mark. If he gets 6 months of not missing any on his spelling words, then we're going to go to Chicago to the science and industry because he loves the science and industry. The idea is to give them small-term goals and rewards to help them want to do it. This is what we seen in first grade. We found that, the teacher would have a long lecture and she wouldn't have anything to do with them, and then she wanted him to actually know what she was talking about. He was off daydreaming about Legos and what we was going to do when we got home and all that good stuff. So we had to talk to the teacher about, focusing in on him. When I talk to him, I specifically have to tell him sometimes, look me in the eye. Let me see what you're doing, because if you don't keep focusing on that and stay active with him, his eyes will just wander and he doesn't pay any attention to you. Structure and organization. This is what I've been talking about. You have to have the organization and structure to keep them on task. This helps with their memory. If you're saying it constantly, it's kind of like you and I. If I'm saying it constantly that you need to do this, then you're going to remember to do it. But if I just say it once, are you gonna remember, or are you not gonna remember? Distractions. a lot of the places where I looked said that, completely removing the distractions is what you need to do. And then there was a lot of that said you should not remove all the distractions. I agree with not removing the distractions, because if you put him in a room to study and there's no distractions whatsoever, when he goes to the classroom, there's going to be distractions no matter what. The idea is to take away those distractions, like if you have an aquarium in the classroom and you set him right next to the aquarium, he's going to be staring at the fish all day long. So the idea is to keep him away from the aquarium. This is him. They just did their Boy Scouts. He's very good at Boy Scouts because they do stuff step by step, and he just did his boat. I found that when he lost, he got third place, but when he lost that final race, his confidence went down a lot, and so we have to figure out extra ways to boost his confidence back up. So we found that if we talk to him about his teamwork or his ability to talk to others and give them praise for their things, that helped him out. So he was so excited. So then he started shaking all the kids' hands and being like, "Oh, good job," and then he was motivated again. A token economy is pretty much that. You're going to get a reward for doing something well. Like if we give out quarters, so that way at the end of the day, if he's had a good day, I give him a quarter, and he puts it in, and then at the end of the week, once he has enough quarters, he gets to go to the pinball game, or he gets to go to IGA money and get tattoos. I don't like tattoos, but I still let him do it. I like tattoos, just not on kids. So, response costs, it's pretty much the same thing as a token, but it helps control or helps take care of impulsivity. A lot of these kids, they can't help it. They're just going to get jumpy. He's able to stay calm a lot of the time. He's on some medication that helps with this as well. But timeouts, people think that timeout is because they think they're bad kids, and they're not bad kids. The idea is that you only use a timeout when they're acting up. If they're acting up while they're doing their schoolwork, chances are he's not wanting to do his schoolwork. So he thinks, I'm not going to do it, so I'll just be bad. And then all the other kids are, laughing or whatever, and it's kind of like a reward for him so you're only supposed to use a timeout when they're being disruptive. And then their attitude. If their attitude stays calm, then that's when you let them out of timeout. They say when your kids are little that you should go, for every year that they're born, you should go for a minute in timeout. When they get to an older age, you should be able to go by their attitude and see if their attitude has changed by being in the timeout. This is Hafsa's slides from here. I'm going to talk a little bit about it. Medications, there are a lot of medications that are on here. And she did a lot of research about the different stimulant and non-stimulant drugs. There is Ritalin, which is what my son is on. I hate this drug. I think this drug is a terrible, terrible drug. But it makes him sleepy. It makes him just kind of lose that energy. And if you have him during the summer, because he doesn't have to take it in the summer, if he takes it off the summer, he's so full of life. And then as soon as he starts taking the medicine, he gets bound up. He can't go to the bathroom. His appetite is a lot, and he's really, you guys saw him, he's a really little guy. He doesn't even weigh 35 pounds, and he's 8, but he, just has lots and lots of issues. He can't sleep, or he sleeps too much. These are some of the non-stimulant medications. He hasn't been put on Wellbutrin yet, but it has been something that they talked about, but I don't agree with adding another medication to what he's already dealing with. I already talked about that. Jitteriness is one of those things. He does not like to be jittery. That's like his major thing is he doesn't like to be like this.
Yes. Okay. So the next part is that ADHD treatment should combine combine conventional treatment techniques such as medication, so the stimulant drugs or non-stimulant drugs, along with behavioral therapy to help the student, especially those children that are going to have side effects along with it too, to try and see what we can do with behavioral therapy. One thing that was mentioned was using video games or computer games in order to help them focus that energy. Although you might think it will do the opposite, some of these video games and computer games, they have specific tasks and rewards after you complete the task. Therefore, they're focusing in on following the directions, getting that done, getting the reward, just as Brandy was talking about earlier about doing rewards throughout. So that's actually how technology can help them practicing those focusing techniques. And like I said, these are computers, tablets, smartphones. I said video games. There was one study done with positive psychology done in adolescents that really helped them focus using video games because it's something that's fun for them to do as well as can keep them engaged. When I was in student teaching, we tried to use the smart board as much as possible, getting the students not only just touching the technology because it's interesting, but it makes them get up out of their seat, come to the board, do something, then go back and sit down. So in my opinion, that's why I prefer that over, say, an iPad, because an iPad, then you're at your seat with the iPad instead of getting up and moving around. Okay, and so finally, technology can be a most important tool because it's exciting and interesting for children to use. That's for all children, not just with children who are suffering from ADHD, but it can also be an extra little bonus. So tablet or smartphone applications can be used to develop certain social skills because sometimes these students, an extra condition they may suffer from is having trouble interacting with their peers because of the interruptions, the fidgetiness, not being able to pay attention. Sometimes they can struggle with that just a little bit more. Do we have any questions?
Very good. One question.
I'll do one. When was ADHD first diagnosed?
What do you mean?
Well,
In the beginning?
yeah. Well, when was it first recognized as an issue, as a issue with children or people in general, and treated?
I don't know the exact time frame. I do know it was in the DSM-3.
What DSM-3 means?
This book of psychology.
Yeah, I think it's Diagnostic Statistical Manual or something
Yeah.
for psychology.
Yeah.
We're now in the fifth. We're now in DSM-5.
When was your child diagnosed with that?
Mine was diagnosed. He's 8, so about 2 years ago. They diagnosed him after he got held back in kindergarten.
Why did you think that he has anything? Was he overactive, less active?
Well, I think that he has only child syndrome. He was also premature. He's also the only grandchild, and so I think a lot of it is, a lot of people did stuff for him on a regular basis, and then he just did the video games. And since my husband and I have been together, we've worked with him, he has calmed down quite a bit, and we don't discourage using technology because I love the smart board and all that stuff, but I do discourage when that's all they do. There for a while, that was about all he was doing, but he had so many different things going on for him. I mean, he was premature. He was 3 pounds when he was born, so. Yeah.
Well, I have three more questions if you don't have. So if I give you the
And Janice said it was about the early 1900s.
Do you want to say something? No? Okay.
There are some psychologists that they believe that there's no such a disease like ADHD, and I have no idea. I just think that it's a good idea to see it in another aspect. It's like maybe, as you said, there are some reasons that makes you feel like this kid needs some helps, not drugs, other things. So, do you think it's true or not?
Personally, I think he's a boy. He's an 8-year-old boy, and if I remember all the 8-year-old boys, I mean, I'm a lot older than most of you, but if I think about all the 8-year-old boys when I was in school, They were all crazy dragons and cowboys, Indians, all that stuff. They were always running around. They were always doing stuff. So sometimes I think he's just an average 8-year-old little boy. But then when I watch him when he's learning, I read this stuff and I know more about this stuff, I can see his learning, but I'm not necessarily sure that it is
ADHD.
Yeah, I'm not really necessarily sure that it's.
I know.
So it's complicated. Do you want to say anything?
Sure. Some of our research even said to be very cautious diagnosing a younger child, because younger children just naturally have a shorter attention span, and they're naturally more active than, say, older children or adolescents or anything like that. So you need to be very careful that you're looking at the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, if I could talk, to make sure you're looking at that to see if you're actually diagnosing them correctly, and look at the family history and the medical history and everything like that, that you're not just making a rash decision. And I would suggest that I would think it'd be better to try some behavioral methods first and see if maybe just changing something in the classroom might help before jumping to prescription drugs or something like that. I know, like I said, when I was student teaching, there was a few students that the teacher said, well, they should probably get on medication or something like that. It's like, well, can't we try something else first? You know, maybe just, we move the desk away from everyone else. Sometimes little things like that just make a world of difference.
That's a definite issue today. Is we took him off the medication, and he was off the medication at the beginning of this year, but the teacher said that he was being a problem and that he needed to go back on the medication, and so the doctor and his mom put him back on the medication.
The problem was he was overactive.
Yeah, he was talking in class, and instead of moving him or doing something, she suggested that it was either put him back on the medication or put him in special education. And he's a very bright boy. Like, he can draw and he can write. He writes short stories, and he's 8 on the computer. He's really very talented, and so it was. But once I also found out that if I'm honest with him and I tell him the truth about how things work, you know, if you don't show them that you're smart, then they're never gonna know that you're smart. And so since I've been talking to him about that, he's being more active, proactive in class and stuff, so that helps.
Now, there is a trend in the society now to take things that are behavioral and they say it is a disease that needs medication. For some reason, I mean, some behaviors that are kind of shifting from a behavioral thing to, that's a disease. You have to take medicine for that. How true is this about ADD and ADHD and all this stuff? Because I have another question that I want you to verify for me. Just help me with that.
I think there are, I really think that there are probably some children who probably do need the medication. I don't know, you know, there's all sorts of different things in the world, and I can say that, you know, with like stuff like post-traumatic stress disorder or OCD or ADHD or ADD, there are actual like behavioral strategies that you could use instead of medication to help move these things along. There's people are eating crazy things because they just can't stop themselves. There's actual psychology that you can use instead of a drug.
I'm going to use an example very loosely here. Some parents are busy, so they just put any video tape for the children just to get rid of them and concentrate on their work. So could it be that whoever is the teacher or the parents or whatever give him a medication to
That is true. That happens.
so it's really our we are the problem, not the children.
I actually wrote it in my paper that, you know, that people as parents should be educated when they're having the baby, before they have the baby, like have to take a mandatory education on, you know, what parenting is.
I mean, you are touching on a very important thing. Nobody studies what marriage is
Yeah.
to start with, and they just jump in and have more problems or many problems.
I will say that, you know, my older son, my 14-year-old, who's very, very, very smart, he at 1-year-old could go and put a DVD in the thing and put it in and watch a movie until I woke up at 5, like, because he'd get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. But we had educational stuff, and like his video games was like the V Smile, and we had like, you know, things that would make their brain work instead of let's shoot them up, kill them up, and I think it depends on the technology and the actual game you're using and at what age you're doing it.
Minecraft. Like Minecraft is huge.
My kids, all of my kids have Minecraft
It's like
on
a drug.
Xbox.
It's like cocaine or heroin.
What's that?
Minecraft. I have a nephew. He's 8 years. He's probably playing it right now
Oh, yeah.
because it's such an addictive game.
My son's 14. I have a 14-year-old son who plays that game. I have a 10-year-old daughter who plays that game,
soon
and
as-
I have an 8-year-old son that
As
plays
soon
that
as one
game.
of you guys talked about the video games about focusing on achieving a thing and then getting a reward, I was like, Jesus Christ, I like Minecraft.
My 8-year-old son's actual birthday party was a Minecraft party.
Well,
Like crackheads.
two quick questions. First, what's the difference between ADE and ADHD? Sorry, ADD and ADHD.
ADD is just the attention deficit. They can't pay attention very well. Yeah, and then ADHD is where they can't pay attention very well, but they're always like on the go and they're always hyper.
How would you say about there is nobody's absent? It's they are present somewhere else. If they are absent from you and you're seeing that they are here, they are somewhere else. So the medication is not to do something to them, but to see where their mind is going there, and do your homework as a doctor or physician or parent or teacher or something.
Well, if the medication is not used right, it can make you daydream. It can make you go. It's a side effect to daydream, and if you're giving it to somebody who doesn't need it, then
You are hurting them.
those are the side effects. That's why you see all these house moms taking Ritalin because they don't need it. It gives them something completely different than it would give somebody who has ADHD.
2 weeks ago, I received an email, didn't get a chance to verify it, so please verify it. They say that the physician, the scientist who invented or started the ADD movement or ADHD movement and all the medication before he died, I wish he's still alive, but he died. That's what I read in the email. He confessed that he made all this up, and there's nothing like ADD. There's nothing called ADHD, and he has some relations with medication or drug companies, pharmaceutical companies, and it's a big billion-dollar thing. With the frenzy of everything is disease, everything needs a medicine. Now, I cannot confirm or deny. I am just telling you the email that came to me. Is it a conspiracy theory? Is it this? I don't know. So please verify it.
Just one last point. Some of the medications are effective. You know, I mean, it's not, I don't think if you give a kid a medication for one of the diseases and it allows the child to focus or it improves the behavior, I don't think that should be frowned upon necessarily.
I mean, we are chemical, electrical creatures, amazingly. So if you put some chemistry in me or some electrical, I'll react somehow. But I'm affecting some other stuff. So how much to do? I mean, it's a big thing. Yes.
I know, kind of along the lines of what, you were saying and what Brandy was saying, that, it's not necessarily that giving a medication like Ritalin or, some of the others is bad, if it's necessary. And I have seen, cases where, because I've worked at CTF, I worked at DFI, I've worked with children in schools who have, ADHD and all sorts of other, things. And, I understand that, some of these medicines do actually work and help curve, some of the loss of attention or some of the, jitteriness or the I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and the 1,001 thoughts going on up here while they're supposed to be here, at this one point. But for some kids, they have what I call the NAW HD, and that's just need a whooping, hyperactive, you know what I mean? Because some kids, it's just a matter of discipline and or behavior, as I call it, behavior modification. So like what Brandy was saying, making sure that there's a set schedule, making sure that the kid is allowed to, do the fun things they want to do, video games and whatnot, but they're also, they're made to focus on their academics, they're made to do this, and it just takes a parent putting their foot down or a teacher putting their foot down and providing structure along with that fun and that extra stuff that they want to do. So sometimes it's not always ADHD, sometimes it's just, behavior modification, as I call it.
Well, they say too that one doesn't cause the other, but children that suffer from ADHD can also suffer from other disorders too. They're more likely than other children to suffer from other disorders like oppositional defiant disorder, bipolar disorder, things like that. So they could also be suffering,
I think medication is better when it's like the older kid type frame. I don't think that giving it, I'm not for giving it to an 8-year-old boy. I'm not for giving it to anybody under the age of like 14, 15, even. Actually, I would prefer that they be an adult, to be honest, because adults do suffer from it. So I guess my problem is I don't like the medication because I've seen what it does to him, and I personally am in agreement that, there has to be a disciplinary.
We don't advise you to stop this because, it's a matter of thinking. What a group of thinkers you are, people. So just give it a thought. Don't stop medication.
Oh, no, my husband and my husband's ex-wife, I just have an opinion.
Well, please give them a hand.